Moral of the story, kids, don't mess with the smart ones. Hey guys, it's G from the F Word here to review for you Manhunt Unabomber. This obviously follows the story of the capture and eventual incarceration of Ted Kaczynski, otherwise known as the Unabomber, who sent packages out to various locations, pretty much with bombs in them with shrapnel. Sam Worthington plays Detective Fitz. He is a profiler who was brought in by the FBI in 1995 to help and find a way to connect the dots to see who this Unabomber is, because at that point they didn't know who he actually was. They just named him Unabomber. Paul Bettany plays the Unabomber, and the FBI, much like it did in the show Mindhunter, doesn't believe in a lot of the different levels of thinking that Sam Worthington brings to the table, where he's talking about linguistics and genealogy and where, little finer details like that. They think that they have one lead, they're going to follow it, and this is the one they're going to go with. And they obviously make some mistakes, and Sam Worthington does have some pushback from his higher ups. To the trial part, which is the second half of the way the story is told in this. It starts in 1997, just before the trial, where Ted Kaczynski has found a loophole to discredit Sam Worthington's character, and they have to bring him back so he can kind of close it out. And then it jumps to 1995 when they first introduce him to bring him in. He leaves his family behind to go search for the Unabomber and put his skills to the test, which is where we get most of our conflict within the FBI himself and his higher ups. The first thing I'm going to say about the good on this is Sam Worthington. For those of you who don't know, he was in, your Clash of the Titans, Wrath of the Titans. He's been in some leading capacity, but hasn't really paid off for him as much. This seems to be a better platform because he is actually able to develop as an actor in the role that he's in, given the time that the series allows him. There's a lot of chances that he does take where he is able to kind of stretch those acting muscles, which I think was really good. And he is highlighted in this, and he is a leading actor in this role. However, when we meet Paul Bettany, aka Ted Kaczynski, he does play that supporting actor, which is more his style, or at least I found has been more his style. So it's kind of good to see a guy like this who seems to have been struggling in Hollywood to find roles, getting something like this and being able to stretch those acting muscles a little bit. Paul Bettany, hands down, best thing about this whole thing. He is incredible. He is creepy. He is extremely intelligent. He is also charming at the same time. It's really weird, but he does a very good job because Paul Bettany is a very good actor. He ends up taking over this entire show, and you're who he's focused on, and not just the episodes that they give devoted to him, but in general. His voice gives this presence throughout the entire show where you're kind of waiting for him to show up and say what he has to say, and he says it very methodically, and he plays a very methodical individual. Now, I don't know how much of this is true. It is obviously based on true events. Clearly, the Unabomber was real. Ted Kaczynski was real, or is real. I don't know if he's dead or not. But they showed the other side to it. They showed the side that made us empathize with a guy sending bombs out wherever, and in a weird way you understand him and you get where he's coming from. You don't agree with what he's doing, but it's got that whole Joker vibe where he's such a great villain because you do understand where he's coming from. He's not just doing things for the sake of doing things. That's where bad villains come into play. Good villains are ones that you can relate to and you agree with, even though it kind of makes you feel weird because of the way that they're doing it. The other thing that they did with that, not only let the audience, but let Fitz or Sam Worthington get in that mindset as well, where he did understand him. He did know where he was coming from. He did believe the things that he was saying. He just obviously, as a man of the law, does not agree with what he's doing or how he's doing it. And that's when you have much more well-rounded character development. And I felt that that was one of the highlights of this specifically, because the rest of the FBI, they just saw him as one thing, the Unabomber, like most people do, whereas Sam Worthington saw him as something else, as a person who is struggling through a lot of things. And then when the show dives into Ted Kaczynski's bad story, you get even more of insight to it. So some of the negatives I have was the way that they paced the show. As I mentioned before, there is a transition point where Sam Worthington is the main character and Paul Bettany takes over as our main character, and Sam Worthington ends up being more of a supporting character to round out the whole circle of FBI life. And when they did in the beginning, they did a better job of showcasing the 1995 sections of the 1995 timeline and the 1997 timeline. And I don't know if it was me not paying attention at one point because it did slow down a bit for me, but they stopped doing that. So I had to remind myself exactly where I was Was I in 1995 or 1997? And again, it was just kind of one of those minor things. It's not a huge thing, but it's just one of the things that I noticed because I'm sitting there like, where am I? Eventually you get it. But again, it's just one of my things. And although Sam Worthington was really good as in this in comparison to other stuff, I did find he had a tough time showing to me that he actually cared about certain events that happened specifically in his personal life. He is really good from the neutral standpoint to the angry, but from neutral to the sadness, I felt was kind of lost. He felt a little bit cold, and I don't know if they wanted to show that because he is so focused on what he was doing and his job versus caring about his personal life. So there might have been a stylized choice they did for the character. For me, I would have probably liked a little bit more emoting. But this is a good show. This is a good show. It's definitely not as good as Mindhunter, but this is really good follow-up. If you did watch Mindhunter, they do have nothing to do with each other, but it is really cool to see that where it was the dawn of profiling to, following a case that legitimately happened. It was based on a true story, and it's really cool to see. And they did a really good job, again, of giving us both sides of the story, which most of the time you don't get because you just see the evil. So I would highly recommend watching this specifically if you do like this. This is kind of your equivalent of your Criminal Minds that you'd find on TV, where it's just, consistent, solid, and if they keep going on with this with different manhunts, I think it'd be pretty cool series to have. Anyways, that's my quick review of Manhunt Unabomber. Have you seen it? Did you like it? I tried not to spoil a lot, but this isn't really a full spoiler review or non-spoiler. It's just a review. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for everybody who's been watching our videos. We hit a third video over 1,000 views with Dark. Amazing show. Please check that one out too. And yeah, we'll catch you next time. I'm G, and I'm out.